Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping right into your source material today.
That's right.
We're pulling out the key insights from a really fascinating look at what's happening with young people in Nigeria.
Exactly. We're exploring this movement that's captured in the excerpts you provided. It's titled Nigeria's Youth, Cultivating Inner Peace and Leadership.
Right.
And it really talks about a generation choosing a path that's maybe a bit different, focused inwards, on self-discovery, creating peace from within.
So our mission for this deep dive is to, really unpack these excerpts. We want to understand who's driving this, what exactly they're doing, how they're doing it, and, according to the source, the kind of transformative impact it's having.
Cross-country, yeah.
And get ready for some surprising details, stuff like how technology is being connected with inner stillness.
Which sounds counterintuitive, maybe.
Right, and specific techniques designed to tackle those mental hurdles we all face, plus some really moving personal stories from the participants themselves.
Okay, so let's dive in. The source material really sets the scene in Nigeria first, paints a picture of a place with, incredible cultural diversity. But against that backdrop, you've got this new generation deliberately carving out a different kind of path.
One focused on inner peace.
Exactly. Their shared goal, it seems, is to ignite that spark of meditation within Nigerian youth.
And how are they going about it? The article uses this image, describes them as lighting individual flames of peace.
Yeah, which are then growing into what it calls a network of small lights.
Okay.
And this isn't just happening in one spot. This network is spreading across various cities. Ibadan, Osogbo, Abeokuta, Ilorin.
So it's a growing movement.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And the material highlights 5 specific young leaders who are really instrumental in building this network.
Okay, let's get into who they are. First up, Olutomiwa Benuyo in Ibadan.
Right. The source identifies him as a social development leader, also a doctoral researcher. Been practicing meditation since 2015, apparently. And he's described as the main force behind the Ibadan Peace Club.
And his focus, what's he aiming for there?
Well, according to the excerpts, his specific focus is on using that meditation knowledge to foster creativity, flexibility, and, importantly, self-understanding among young people in Ibadan and the surrounding areas.
Interesting. Okay, who's next?
Then you've got Rogba over in Osogbo.
Osogbo, right.
He's described as an international youth developer, a key figure for the Osogbo Peace Club there.
And what's his angle?
What's really interesting here, according to the source, is how he integrates mindfulness and meditation directly into broader projects, things like environmental work, education, health initiatives.
Oh, wow. So connecting inner work with outward action.
Precisely. His guiding principle, the source says, is inner change leads to outer change.
That makes sense. Okay, who else?
In Abeokuta, there's Josudafunmi Omidiji. She's a pharmacy student, but also a vital force in the Abeokuta Peace Club.
Pharmacy student, okay. And passionate about?
Gender equality and mental health. That's what the source highlights.
Right.
And her belief, it says, is that mindfulness and meditation are sort of the foundation for building women's confidence and helping young people generally make sound decisions, correct decisions.
Another powerful connection. Then there's Ayamatan Ajayi in Ilorin.
Yes, and he's the one connecting technology with peace building.
That's the one.
Intriguing. Yeah, the material notes, he's actually building a new group at the Ilorin Peace Club. And he uses his programming knowledge alongside meditation practice.
To develop what?
To develop what he calls digital leaders with inner stillness as their foundation.
Digital leaders with inner stillness. That's quite a concept.
It really is a fascinating blend, isn't it?
Yeah. And finally,
back in Ibadan, there's Ayobami Martins, a biochemistry student volunteering at the Ibadan Peace Club.
Okay, and her focus?
Her energy, the source says, is really on reaching youth in secondary schools and higher education through ongoing workshops and teaching sessions.
So direct outreach.
Direct outreach. And her belief, stated in the source, is pretty fundamental. Knowing one's own mind is the key to true leadership.
Wow. So 5 distinct individuals, different backgrounds, different focuses.
Exactly. But all mentioned in the source as collectively building this network, driven by this shared commitment to inner peace for young Nigerians.
And these 5 actually came together recently, didn't they, for a special event in May 2025?
That's right, an empowerment bootcamp held at the Ibadan Peace Club.
Okay, tell us about that. What was the goal?
Well, the excerpts are really clear on this. The aim was to help awaken the inner strength in young people, guide them towards understanding themselves better, and ultimately help them discover inner peace maybe for the first time, firsthand.
And who attended?
Over 33 young people came, traveling from different regions across Nigeria.
And a key detail the source points out, it was free.
Completely free of charge, yeah. The reason given, it emphasizes, wasn't about making money.
Right.
It was about embodying that idea of peace that can be given freely to one another.
That really speaks volumes about their values.
It does. It reflects the core principles described in the source. And the camp activities themselves sound pretty comprehensive.
How so?
They were designed for effectiveness, integrating what the article calls the 5 acts of self-discipline, meditation, and wisdom.
Okay, so structured. What kind of activities are we talking about?
Well, they kick things off with ice-breaking activities. Interestingly, the source mentions these were adapted from techniques used in Thailand.
Oh, okay. Not just random games then.
No, not at all. They were specifically chosen to, break down any awkwardness, create a warm, friendly, open-hearted kind of atmosphere. Exactly what the organizers wanted.
Makes sense. What else?
A really central part of the training involved getting a handle on the obstacles to inner peace.
Stuff that gets in the way.
Exactly.
Huh.
Participants learned about something the source calls 4C: comfort, calm, consistency, and check to review.
4C. Okay.
And this framework was presented as a practical way to overcome the 5 mental hindrances. The source lists them as the sensual mind, the angry mind, the sleepy mind, the worrying mind, and the doubtful mind. Things we probably all recognize.
Definitely. So the 4Cs help with those.
That's the idea presented in the source. Recognizing these common mental roadblocks and then having a method, the 4C approach, to navigate past them using mindfulness. Practical insight.
Got it. And the actual meditation?
The practice itself involved 3 forms described in the material. First, using the breath for training mindfulness and stillness, so mindful breath work.
Okay.
Second, visualization techniques like focusing on the sun or the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And third, mantra recitation, which was used as a way to help center the mind specifically at the body's core.
So a few different approaches to meditation itself.
Yeah, offering variety. And the workshops also included something called Dharma workshops.
Dharma workshops, what were they about?
The source highlights 2 specific ones. One was called JACK-S.
GAS.
Yeah, it stands for Goal Achieving Steps, outlining a path using passion, effort, focus, and a review.
Ah, okay. Goal setting.
But importantly, the source suggests this wasn't just about setting external goals, but about inspiring that goal-setting process from within.
Okay, internal motivation. And the other workshop?
That one was called CORE, the cornerstones of relationship.
Relationships.
This taught principles for building better connections, focused on things like giving, endearing speech, being helpful, and consistency in how you interact with others.
So it wasn't just solitary inner work, it connected outwards too.
Exactly. That seems to be a key theme, how the inner translates to the outer.
Makes sense. Any other types of activities?
They even incorporated the outdoors. The source mentioned something called bubble blowing of intention.
Bubble blowing of intention. Tell me more.
Participants apparently wrote down their intentions and then they blew bubbles into the sky,
Okay.
using the bubbles as like symbolic acts of letting go, or maybe even prayer. It sounds quite visual, almost therapeutic.
Yeah, I can picture that. Very creative. How did they process all this?
Good question. The camp included discussion circles and sharing sessions, creating those safe spaces the article talks about for reflection and, deeper learning.
Crucial for integration.
Absolutely. And participants also used tools like mission log writing and life goal setting.
Okay.
These were framed as ways to communicate with their inner selves, observe the changes happening within them, and establish personal development guidelines going forward.
Wow. Sounds incredibly thorough.
It really does. Very well thought out based on the description.
So with all these activities packed in, what kind of impact did the source say this camp actually had on the participants?
Well, the material is pretty emphatic here. It states that these activities transformed many hearts and lives.
Really?
Yeah. And a really significant takeaway is that for many attendees, this boot camp was genuinely the first time they had ever experienced a state of inner peace.
The very first time. That's profound.
It is.
Yeah.
And the descriptions quoted in the excerpts are incredibly vivid, really bring it to life.
Like what did people say?
Some describe feeling as if freed from all worries, or that their heart came home. It was empty, light, comfortable, things like that.
Yeah.
Some even mentioned crying, but with a sense of release, saying they smiled from within for the first time.
That's powerful stuff. Is any physical sensations mentioned?
Yes, there were those too. like finding a cool, clear spring in the heart after feeling like they were in a hot desert mentally.
Nice metaphor.
Or feeling like the whole world stopped, leaving only the sound of peace within us. Just that deep quiet.
Incredible.
And the stillness seemed really profound for many. There's one quote that captures it beautifully. When we all sat still in the room, it was so quiet I could hear the sound of my heart's breath.
Chad, wow.
Yeah, it was the purest feeling I've ever had. Others had this realization, like, I never thought closing my eyes could help me know myself this much.
Just the simple act of closing their eyes led to that. Amazing.
So, huge individual impact. Did it ripple outwards at all?
It seems so. The source notes that participants left feeling motivated. They wanted to organize similar activities for their own friends.
Passing it on?
Exactly. Starting new clubs in their areas, and some even explicitly planned to become peace agents themselves, continuing the work.
So creating more of those small lights.
Right. And collectively, the results were also significant. Participants apparently got a deep understanding of something called the BetterME Model, mentioned in the source.
The BetterMe Model.
Yeah, understanding how to apply the principles they learned at the camp to their everyday lives, their goals, their habits, their mental self-care.
So making it practical and sustainable.
Seems like it. And they left feeling inspired to be leaders of change themselves, with actual concrete plans for starting peace projects soon after the camp ended.
That's impressive follow-through.
Definitely. And one detail that really stands out, especially for young people today, is the camp's no device policy.
Ah, yes, the digital detox aspect. How did that go down?
Well, the article notes that initially it seemed really challenging, maybe even impossible for some attendees.
I can imagine.
But the result, according to the source, participants actually reported feeling more peaceful, more focused, and crucially, more genuinely connected to themselves and to the other people there.
Interesting. So taking away the screens actually enhanced connection.
That's what the source suggests. And this whole movement, this camp, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It gained some attention.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, discussions popped up in Inside Oyo articles, and it got mentioned on a radio program called Mindfulness and You.
Okay, so getting some media traction.
Showing that these ideas about meditation are indeed reaching this new generation in Nigeria, getting into the mainstream conversation a bit.
And there was something about small inspirations, too.
Right, simple things like little cards saying you can do better or just awesome.
Okay.
Apparently, this was modeled after something called PCET training in Thailand. They were given as small gifts, but the intention was to awaken self-confidence and give a little boost of mental momentum.
A nice touch. Simple, but potentially effective.
So putting it all together, the source material really frames this whole experience, this boot camp, as the proof of possibility.
Proof of possibility. What does that mean in this context?
It emphasizes that this camp, even though it was just one event, really demonstrated something powerful. That real change can begin when the mind finds peace.
When you start from that place of calm.
Exactly. When people are willing to dare, to try something new, like seriously training their own mind's peace stops being just some abstract concept.
But it becomes something real, something you actually experience.
Precisely. And the source gives a lot of credit to the dedication of the peace architects, the leaders, and the whole committee involved.
Makes sense. An event like that requires huge commitment.
Absolutely. So we've taken quite a deep dive into this specific source material today.
Yeah, we've explored how this network of young leaders in Nigeria is actively cultivating inner peace, using really concrete practices.
And creating what sounds like a significant impact.
Definitely. These young leaders, through their actions and, the experiences of the people at the camp, they really demonstrate this powerful path that doesn't start with external striving, but by looking inwards first.
And the source told us repeatedly about those key discoveries the youth made.
Right. Like knowing one's own mind is the key to true leadership.
And that other core idea, inner change leads to outer change.
Powerful takeaways.
So based purely on the material you shared with us, we want to leave you, the listener, with this thought to mull over.
What does that actually mean for your life right now?
How might seriously training your own mind, finding some of that inner stillness they talked about, how might that unlock your potential for leadership or maybe just spark some positive change right where you are?